If you've seen that sign out there on the Southeastern Freeway or on our website, or indeed in your order of service today, you've probably wondered, what is this about? Why is my photograph up there with Florence Nightingale and Martin Luther King? The three photographs are of people who, of course, never met, and each one of us vastly different from the other. But if you look again, each one is pointing to a better humanity, a faith that is something of enormous importance. The future of a faith to live by. Florence Nightingale, as you know, brought hope and faith to young men injured and dying from war wounds. Martin Luther King was pointing a whole nation to non-violence, to basic dignity and equality. We within the new faith that I advocate are saying in 2010, we live in a different world. We need the energy and the vision to live with new resources of mind, new resources of spirit, to survive in this different world. Florence Nightingale and Martin Luther King are models for all of us to follow. They stepped out of the box, and in face of great resistance, they put forward a different view, a different way of doing things. And their courage, and their commitment, their compassion are our models. And we are proud to see how they, in their time, were models of a new faith, and models that we in our time can emulate. One spoke to the human body and the strength of the human spirit. The other spoke to the human society and the transformation of the human spirit. We here speak to the human mind and the health and resilience of the human spirit. And before I move away from the sign, I dare say you've heard it already said, that must have cost a penny to put that sign up. No, it didn't. You see, sometimes money is not the only item of commerce and exchange. Sometimes goodwill can be greater in our way of getting things done. Well, the new faith in its future. Over the last century, human beings became determined, mindless killers of their own species. Over 100 million men, women, and children. And the grief that followed, vast. Over the last decade, human beings have given the go-ahead to unimaginable torture of fellow human beings, and thus denying the central tenets of the Christian faith to which they said they held. Nearly every week, more young people sacrifice their lives by accepting the role of the suicide bomber, visiting huge injuries and death on many fellow human beings. So we've got holocausts and genocide all back on the agenda. Tell me, will anything less than a new faith lift us off this pathway of human destruction? Turn to the epidemics of drug trafficking and child pornography and the multiplicity, the multiplications of millions of dollars involved, and the mindless damage of millions of lives, will anything less than a new faith put us all onto a new pathway of human transformation? Indeed, will even the new faith put us there? Call on God if you like, but the idea of God doesn't work. Clearly doesn't work. Not with the holocausts of believing people in Europe, not with the millions of good people in Cambodia consumed in genocide, not with the people in Somalia or the Congo or the Balkans, not with the terrible murders and mayhem in Ireland or East Timor, none of that. Many comfort themselves by saying God is suffering with his people. But is that any comfort to the parents of countless Aboriginal people and their communities who have known the same story for hundreds of years, that their children have never had the same chance of survival as white children? And nor have those parents had the same life expectancy of white Australian parents. The old faith, as we once knew it, with its raft of beliefs, its creeds and its doctrines tightly defended by old faith veterans, is no longer relevant to that kind of world, to this life and death situation every day, to our everyday griefs and stresses of people in the second decade of this 21st century. And if that is not enough, you only need to look at the churches and say, what is the old faith doing at this time when so many of the churches are so obviously empty? So in 2008, we brought things to a head by advocating the necessity for a new faith. 1 year later, Professor Harvey Cox of Harvard University published his book called The Future of Faith. It could have been preached in this very pulpit. And 1 year after we did what we did, Nicholas Wade published his book called The Faith Instinct. And in the same period, Sir Lloyd Gearing launched his new book. After many other books that he'd published on the same theme, he launched his new book, Coming Back to Earth. And then on top of that, Robert Wright published his book called The Evolution of God. About all of these books we've spoken. And they all happened in 2009. Did I influence them? No, I did not. Did they influence me? No, they did not. But like so many apparently synchronized occurrences, these events occurred in different places around the world, same time. And the interesting thing is this: we are all older men, and we have been propounding these ideas for several decades. Nobody was listening, perhaps. Nobody wanted to hear, perhaps. But when we put them forward, there's the resistance. And they say, what is wrong with the old faith? Well, we could say many things, but it has not matured. It has not kept abreast. It has not explored how faith itself, like the birthing of children, has changed over the centuries. So we're now in a search for a new definition of our humanity. Now that we have the internet and the iPhone, the nuclear warheads and the new methods of torturing people in their mind and brain, and we have new methods of treating the mind and brain. And we see now more clearly than ever before that we don't need the old faith God anymore.